Hello and welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are getting into something absolutely fascinating, the actual neuroscience of change. We're drawing heavily from Dr. Joe Dispenza's deep dive into the biological mechanics that essentially control our habits, our daily thoughts, and ultimately our entire futures. You know, if you've ever sat there wondering why it's just so incredibly difficult to break a bad habit, or even stick to a new routine when you really genuinely want to, well, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to unpack the exact mechanics of personal transformation. Okay, let's dive into this. So why do our New Year's resolutions almost always fail? I mean, it's a completely universal human struggle, isn't it? You know exactly what you want on January 1st, you're totally fired up, but by January 12th, yeah, the brand new treadmill has somehow magically transformed into a very expensive clothes hanger. We've all been there, we all have good intentions, but when the pressure is actually on in the present moment, making a different choice is just incredibly difficult. Why is it so biologically hard to just do what we intend to do? Well, the answer lies in a massive biological roadblock. Get this. By the middle of our lives, an overwhelming 95% of who we are is literally a subconscious, hardwired set of thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. Just think about that for a second. 95%. That leaves a tiny little 5% sliver of conscious intention trying to fight against a massive, incredibly efficient subconscious program that's basically just running your life on autopilot. But don't worry, because we can actually overcome this biological roadblock step by step to reach true transformation. Here's exactly what we'll cover in this explainer. First, the biology of stuckness. Second, the uncomfortable unknown. Third, stepping outside the jar. Fourth, mentally rehearsing the future. And fifth, embodying your new reality. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The biology of stuckness. Here is the fundamental problem. Your biology is physically fighting against your desire to change. If you keep making the exact same choices day in and day out, you inevitably create the exact same experiences. And then those experiences cause you to feel the same familiar emotions. So why does this matter to us? Well, when you think, act, and feel the exact same way repeatedly over years and decades, those specific brain circuits become permanently hardwired. Your body actually becomes reliant on those familiar chemical responses. It craves them. This means your biology, your hormone levels, and even your genetic expression stay exactly the same. You're trapped in a cycle that feels impossible to break because your physical body is quite literally addicted to your past. Section 2. The uncomfortable unknown. Now, what's really interesting here is exploring what happens the second you try to break that cycle. When you finally decide to change, it feels incredibly uncomfortable. You are instantly caught in this intense tug-of-war between familiar suffering and the uncertainty of the unknown. Because your body has been so deeply conditioned over the years, the servant has essentially become the master. When you step into the unknown to try out a new habit, your body practically hits the panic button. It actively signals the brain to retreat back to your old routines. Why? Because biologically speaking, returning to that familiar suffering feels so much safer and much more predictable than facing something entirely new and unknown. Your body would honestly rather be miserably comfortable than risk the unpredictable. Dr. Dispenza puts it like this: going from the old self to the new self and crossing that river is a biological, chemical death of the old self. That's the phoenix lighting itself on fire. The stakes here are absolutely massive. And honestly, it is supposed to feel hard. Most people hit that exact wall of discomfort and just turn right around. But validating this struggle completely changes how you approach it. Pushing past the urge to quit, right at that very moment of maximum tension and uncertainty, that is exactly where your brain changes the most. That chaotic, uncomfortable void is actually the perfect place to create something completely new. So, how do we actually break out of these deep unconscious loops? Section 3, stepping outside the jar. As the saying goes, when you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. It's a powerful metaphor. Because our behaviors are 95% unconscious, it unfortunately often takes a severe tragedy, a crisis, a disease diagnosis, or a profound personal loss to make us uncomfortable enough to actually look at ourselves objectively. You basically have to get to a point where you are so deeply uncomfortable that you finally step outside your own programming, look at your own label from the outside, and realize, whoa, maybe the problem is me. There is a scientific term for that exact moment of clarity: metacognition. This is the process of seeing yourself separate from your program to become conscious of your unconscious self. It is the absolute core tool for transformation. This means that just having positive thoughts isn't enough to change your life. You have to actively catch your own complaining, your blaming, and your self-limiting thoughts in real time. You literally have to observe them as if you're a third-party witness, so you never go unconscious to them again. That awareness is step one in stopping the automatic firing of those old neural pathways. Historically, there are two primary drivers of human change. The default for most of us is a state of pain and suffering. This is where you're waiting for a crisis or a massive betrayal to violently shake you out of your jar. But the alternative is far more empowering, a state of joy and inspiration, driven entirely by a clear vision of the future. And the really great news here, you don't have to wait to hit rock bottom to start rewiring your brain. You can choose right now, today, to wake up every single morning believing in your future more than you believe in your past. Let's move to and see how this builds into the practical mechanics of executing your new vision. Section 4, mentally rehearsing the future. Think about this. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking over and over again. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But the implications are absolutely huge. This means you possess the power to consciously choose which specific thoughts and behaviors you want to fire and wire into your brain. You don't have to be a victim to your default programming. You are the programmer. You get to decide exactly what voice lives in your head moving forward. This brings us to the profound power of mental rehearsal. First, you need to get crystal clear on a new response or behavior. How do you want to act when you're stressed? What choice are you going to make the second you wake up? Then you close your eyes and vividly visualize taking that action. And neuroscience shows us something amazing here. The very act of focused mental rehearsal literally grows completely new circuits in your brain. By practicing this, your brain is no longer just a record of the past. It literally maps itself into the future. You transform your mental hardware into an automatic software program, making it look biologically like the future event has already happened. You're building the architecture of your new self before you even take physical action. How cool is that? Which leads us to the final and arguably most profound step. Section 5. Embodying your new reality. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate biological loophole. Our bodies are so objective that they actually do not know the difference between a real-life experience and an emotion created by thought alone. I want you to really let that sink in. This loophole allows you to emotionally teach your body what your future will feel like, way before it ever physically manifests in your environment. You can genuinely experience the joy, the freedom, or the abundance of your goal right now, and your body will start regulating its biology as if that future is already happening. So, bringing this all together into actionable steps. Step 1, become conscious of the unconscious habit. Catch yourself in the act. Step 2, bravely step into the unknown. Tolerate the absolute discomfort of not making the default choice. Step 3, mentally rehearse the new behavior until it feels deeply familiar in your mind. And finally, step 4, combine your clear intention with an elevated emotion. When you pull yourself out of your resting state, holding a clear vision, and pairing it with an overwhelming, heart-centered emotion like profound gratitude or joy, the amplitude of that decision carries massive energy. It causes your body to respond to your mind, actively creating a long-term biological memory of your future. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look at the emotional residue of your past, those old, familiar feelings of being stuck or frustrated or angry, and honestly ask yourself a highly provocative question. Does this lack, does this suffering, does this pain belong in my future? The blueprint for change is entirely in your hands. You literally have the power to consciously leave your chemical past behind, master the discomfort of the unknown, and step fully into your infinite potential. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this topic today. Keep rehearsing that future, and I'll see you in the